bleeding heart libertarianism, sometimes referred to as the Arizona School and Neoclassical liberalism, is a libertarian political movement and ideology that focuses on the compatibility of support for civil liberties and free markets on the one hand, and a concern for social justice and the well-being of the worst off on the other. Adherents of bleeding heart libertarianism broadly hold that an agenda focused upon individual liberty will be of most benefit to the economically weak and socially disadvantaged. History. Early usage. The first recorded use of the term bleeding heart libertarian seems to have been in an essay by Roderick Long. It was subsequently used in a blog post by Stefan Sharkansky, and later picked up and elaborated on by Arnold Kling in an article for TCS Daily. Since then, the term has been used sporadically by a number of libertarian writers including Anthony Gregory and Brian Kaplan. Creation of the Bleeding Heart Libertarians blog. In March 2011, a group of academic philosophers, political theorists, and economists created the Bleeding Heart Libertarians blog. Regular contributors to the blog include Andrew J. Cohen, Daniel Shapiro, Fernando Tesson, Gary Chartier, James Taylor, Jason Brennan, Jessica Flanagan, Kevin Valier, Matt Wolinski, Roderick Long, Jacob T. Lovey, and Stephen Horwitz. Prominent bleeding heart libertarians. Canadian musician and author Neil Peart has identified himself as a bleeding heart libertarian. 2012 Libertarian Party presidential candidate and former governor of New Mexico, Gary Johnson, has also been identified as a bleeding heart libertarian, and once posed for a photo in a bleeding heart libertarian t-shirt. Varieties of bleeding heart libertarianism. The term bleeding heart libertarian does not refer to a single comprehensive philosophical position. Some bleeding heart libertarians are consequentialists, others are natural rights theorists. Some are anarchists, some are minarchists, and some are classical liberals who allow for the state provision of public goods and possibly some form of social safety net. What they all have in common is the belief that addressing the needs of the economically vulnerable by remedying injustice, engaging in benevolence, fostering mutual aid, and encouraging the flourishing of free markets is both practically and morally important. Matt Wolinski has identified three main varieties of bleeding heart libertarian: contingent BHLs, anarchist left BHLs, and strong BHLs. Weak contingent BHLs. Contingent BHLs are essentially standard libertarians who happen to believe that libertarian institutions will be especially good for the poor, and that this is a good thing. For this group, libertarianism is justified on standard natural rights or consequentialist grounds. That libertarian institutions allegedly help the poor is merely a contingent fact that plays no justificatory role. Fernando Tesson is the clearest example of this sort of BHL. Anarchist left BHLs. Anarchist left BHLs believe that all states are morally impermissible and should be abolished. Moreover, they believe that the abolition of the state would be good for the poor and marginalized. This group draws on the writings of figures like Benjamin Tucker and Thomas Hodgkin. Current notable examples include Gary Chartier and Roderick Long. Strong BHLs. Strong BHLs believe that the fact that libertarian institutions would help the poor is not merely a contingent fact, it is an essential part of the justification of those institutions. Strong BHLs believe that libertarianism is justified insofar and to the extent that such institutions are compatible with the requirements of social justice. The idea of social justice plays not only a justificatory role for strong BHLs, but also a revisionary one, insofar as certain elements of standard libertarianism are found to be incompatible with the requirements of social justice. Strong BHLs hold that those elements should be abandoned. Thus, some strong BHLs argue that monarchist libertarian governments might be justified in distributing a universal basic income. Matt Zwolinski, Jason Brennan, and Kevin Valier are strong BHLs. Criticisms. Some libertarians, objectivists, and anarcho-capitalists have accused bleeding-heart libertarians of unfaithfulness to free market principles due to the belief in some form of taxation to finance a basic income or welfare programs, the ill-defined nature of social justice, too much reverence for the ideas of John Rawls, and failing to recognize the importance of merit and desert. Critics of the bleeding-heart libertarian movement include public choice economist Brian Kaplan, Chicago School economist David D. Friedman, and right-wing anarchist and anti-theist blogger Todd Seavey. Jonah Walters, writing for democratic socialist magazine Jacobin, states that bleeding-heart libertarianism is a facelift for traditional free-market libertarian ideas which Walters considers discredited, noting that the ideology emerged in 2011, a few months before Occupy Wall Street. He specifically criticizes both the non-agreement of what the term social justice means in bleeding-heart libertarian circles, as well as the idea of epistocracy defended by movement ideologue Jason Brennan as specifically anti-democratic, with Walters integrating it in their pedigree of conservative thinkers that extends from Burke to Mill to John Adams, stretching back even to Plato, while concluding that bleeding-heart libertarians will only acknowledge persistent social problems and express vague concern for them but proposing very little in way of solutions, while those proposals they do have will only worsen those problems.